My team members left, many other leaders in the business left, except for his few acolytes that were around him. The business was fundamentally turned upside down. And look, ultimately as well, he was asked to leave. But it was an extremely bad experience. And I don't wish it upon anybody else.
Now, in your rise up the corporate ladder, I'm sure there were moments, there was probably a time or several times when you may have felt overlooked for a particular position or perhaps underappreciated by the people who you were serving, because we spend a lot of time in these workplaces. Was there ever such an incident, and do you remember it clearly, and can you share it, and how did you overcome that feeling so that you don't build up resentment towards the people who you were expecting so much from?
Yeah. That's a brilliant question, actually. And quite frankly, well, first let me say, yes, I have. And I'll tell you the experience. I've experienced just now. I've experienced exactly what you've just described. And a part of me says, and this has become part of my belief system, that for many of us who are in senior corporate roles, you almost have to experience this because it helps to shape your leadership. You almost have to go through that moment.
I like that.
Otherwise, you don't get to really lead people in the right manner because you are oblivious to an important matter is this that's being overlooked. So absolutely, a few years ago, if I can just relate to the story, I had that exact same feeling. I had been fortunate to work in a business which is a great culture, great business, and an amazing relationship with the boss that I had when I joined the business. Okay, and him and I had an amazing relationship of understanding, support, and I'd even go to the extent of say care. And he then got moved or promoted into a different role, and a new player, a new person came into the picture. And when we started off this relationship, because that is a relationship, we tried both sides to define what it is. And from his perspective, he said to me, look, you know what, you are highly rated in this business. I'd want to keep you here. But Loretta, I must tell you, from day one, it just never worked.
Wow.
It was such a misfit. From day one, the relationship.
With the new boss.
With the new boss. He went after me. He created traps. He undermined me. His value system, culture and expectation around leadership and what work is, his and mine were diametrically opposed. And it was almost irreconcilable.
Wow.
And it's probably the one time in my career, because the only time I've experienced this, where I can come to say I felt extremely anxious.
Wow.
Anxious.
To be around him. Or wow.
And around the business, and anxious for my team, anxious for my reputation, because I care a lot about that, anxious for my progress, and I had to learn to channel this. I had to learn to get up in the morning, get in my car and go to work, and still lead my team and not show any signs of weakness.
Oh, wow.
Whilst doing that. And I mean, ultimately, I had to tell him that I'm going to leave. This is not working out.
And how
Let's
long
just
had
prefer-
you
So,
been in that situation?
Actually, strangely enough, I kept at it for 2 years. You know, kept at it for 2
Long time.
years. My team members left. Many other leaders in the business left, except for his few acolytes that were around him. The business was fundamentally turned upside down. And look, ultimately as well, he was asked to leave. But it was an extremely bad experience. And I don't wish it upon anybody else. And I would not have been able to understand that until I had gone through it. And it was one of those necessary experiences. But until then, I had a very smooth career. You know, had been blessed with wonderful bosses, wonderful working environment, wonderful experience. And this guy was probably a necessary addition to my repertoire of skills and knowledge and experience. But I learned to deal with anxiety, and I learned to face him and his antics head on. You know, and I needed to do that, and also learned to protect my team.
Yes.
Because he wanted to affect my team through me. You know, so no, it was a terrible, terrible time, and it took me a long time, I'll be honest with you, to forgive him and to actually get over it. But I needed to, so that I could move on.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about moving on, because I find a lot of young professionals, when they encounter such in the workplace, you know, such backlash, such, you know, opposing views, difficulty in just, you know, call it getting things done and presenting themselves in the best light, people move on very quickly, you know, because at some point they experience that wreckage that happens in them, and they're like, this is not worth it. You know, I'm not going to stick around for this. I'm too good for this place. I need to move on. And sometimes, perhaps, would you agree that we do that too quickly? Quickly, to an extent that we don't pick up the valuable lessons that come with those encounters and those experiences.
Look, I think generally you're right. And it's all about resilience. But before you can be resilient, you at least need to have isolated what you think the cause of the problem is. And often people don't do that. In other words, they have not been able to say, actually, the cause of the problem is not me. It's this person that I'm dealing with. So I've still got the same knowledge, skills, level of output and delivery. The variable here is not that. That's not what's changed. What's actually changed here is this person. And because you don't have that view, then you tend to give up too quickly. When in fact, you still need to affirm who you are, what your value is, and what your quality of work is. Because that remains intact often, by the way. It's just the next person that... And then once you've isolated that, okay, great. Then I must carry on doing my job while still trying to manage it. Because you can't ignore. Often, by the people like those, I couldn't ignore who this guy was. First, because he was the boss. But also because there was just so much noise in the business, incredible amount of noise in the business. And as a leader, I couldn't ignore that. But I had to separate what the issue was so that I could get on to saying, okay, great. I'm going to continue doing what I do best until I feel it's no longer possible. That's why I didn't leave too quickly. And I stuck it out for at least 2 years.